I know there are probably some people that need to leave early, but I'll start with just anybody who wants to start. And,
I'll start,
okay.
yes, I have to.
Okay. I didn't want to put you on the spot and make you start first.
Okay.
But, okay.
Well, I remember Pat.
And if you can introduce yourself.
I'm Nancy Hollow, and Pat worked with me for a lot of years selling real estate. And she would come down to me in my office after school, of course, having taught all day long. She would come in, and she sold houses and made friends. And a lot of those friends are still here today. Pat was also quite the writer, and I remember she came to my granddaughter's baby shower, and my granddaughter just turned 31 in June, and Pat brought a book that she had written the forward on. And of course, we still have the book, which was lovely. Pat is a sweet, outgoing, happy person all the time. And my life was improved by having him.
He's got a dish.
Does he have one?
He's got a dish, yeah.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm Joan Corker, the Central Provider. We are part of the home buying friends. So I make it out that way.
I think Pat was working for you,
For you,
Nancy, when
Nancy,
she sold us our house.
And this may be the first time we met you. I've certainly heard your name a number of times. And so we bought our first house. Our first house is married, young married people in Baltimore. We lived down here from Village where we were. And stayed in touch with her ever since. And that was
92.
91. So, and then so we don't Nancy do that. Happy problems come to another homeowner.
We worked together.
And we worked together. That's right. Because Nancy and I worked together, and she introduced me to Pat because Pat sold her house. And then we ended up, there was a bunch of us that bought houses from her that would have dinner when it was somebody's birthday, an excuse for the ladies to get together and talk and laugh and whatever. And Pat was always at the center of that, organizing that. And I think we do have the same book that when our son was born, she gave that to us. And, it was part of all this stuff. And then I think we had a shower for Nancy for Rachel, who were pregnant. Because Pat said, well, Joan, we must have a shower for Nancy, and I think it should be at your house. And so it was, because she didn't say no to Pat, and it was great. And then, of course, we did go to Ireland, and her friends, Ben was great. It was just a nice high school, so overall great trip. It's hard to believe she's not here all week long. Thinking in the back of my mind, we're going to see Pat this weekend, and it's going to be so much fun. It was just how your mind speaks.
Well, I don't really have much to add. I think, Pat was certainly a unique person to know, and she had so much energy. I remember walking around through Ireland, streets of Dublin and all that. That was very energetic, much more so than myself, I think, almost. But yeah, she was quite a person, and she's obviously missed by everyone here.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
It's not really burning anymore, but so
If you want, it's up to you. You don't have to.
okay. So I'm Kathy Rabb, and I'm one of the people who found Pat when I think we came to Baltimore in 1989. assigned my husband got a job, and there was some real estate person who was supposed to help us find a place to live, and we were working with her, but then we saw that, I guess it was Nancy Hubble's building on the corner there, of University and whatever, near Johns Hopkins, and we walked in, and Pat was there, and we immediately got along just really great with her. She was so interesting. It wasn't really just about houses, but more about literature and all this other stuff, and she really took us in, and then she introduced us to her whole circle of friends, became our friends in Baltimore because we just moved here. So we first moved into a place that we rented from this other real estate person who wasn't Pat, and then I guess a year later we decided to buy a house, and she sold us our first house on Holland Road, where I had a kid in that house, and all sorts of things happened there. It was a great place to live, and Pat has been our friend this whole time. She just kept us all together, and she found us young people who were just our age and with our interests, and then it turned out that her children were just about our age, and we also got along with you and Catherine, and then Benjamin and Robbie lived right up the street. So I can remember when Ben, who just got married, came over to our house, and we had a pumpkin growing in the garden, and he came over and did somersaults with pure joy, because this big pumpkin was in the garden, and he was so sweet back then, and I'm sure he's still sweet now. And so many different memories of Pat just through the years for everything, and just even talking about Kevin, it's like every person that she knew, you always knew all this stuff about all her friends and the people that she traveled with. So she shared her life with us for all these years in Baltimore. 20 years ago, we were with her on 9/11. It was her birthday, of course, and we were going to her house anyway. We were like, should we go? No, maybe not. Sure. And it was probably the right thing to do to gather. Even then, and
Pat threw herself a big party for her 70th.
75.
I'm having a big party for me.
It was her
70.
70th.
70. You're right, 70.
That's how we all
Right.
know her age.
Yeah, you're right. Most of you, I don't.
I can remember, she was always welcoming in her lovely house. She tried to get us to buy the house across the street. That was the first thing that she tried to do. She was always wonderful to my kids, and always had books and interesting things to keep us all entertained, and she was always interested, and a loving, great friend to have.
And then she invited us, so we all had to go to the Halloween party at the a couple of times at the Hopkins Club.
To the Halloween party, which was a weird thing.
Kids were little,
But it was fun.
And then, like the kids dressed up.
Right.
Yeah. And then, the last time I saw her was at Nancy's house when she came. The other thing about her was just that she was just so full of, you could never keep her down. She was just always wanting to do more and more. I remember, coming to Nancy's house and it's like, Pat, we're having a party for you, of course. We're all here for you, and getting her up out of bed. And she's like, okay, I'll get up. And getting her ready because everybody was already at the house to celebrate her visit.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful memories all along. What a blast.
Yeah.
And just, she's so, that's all. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you. A great friend.
Should I relight it?
It's up to you. Yeah.
So my name's David Hess, and I'm married to Sally. I'm married, but Owen and I have been friends since first grade at Gilman. When Wells over here, we all started the same class and have remained friends ever since then. And when I first met Owen's mom, Owen asked me to come over to his house for the night or for the day or whatever, and we were walking home. I think it was in second grade maybe, and we had made these dioramas, which were like a little box, a little shoe box that you put all this stuff in. It was like very precious, and I was really into art then. I was making this little model thing that everything had to be in the right spot. I think it was like a little, I don't know, like a scene from like a military battle or something. I was carrying it home from Gilman to Park Lane with Owen, and I tripped, and the thing like flew out of my hands, and it just exploded, and I was crying. I was just like, oh my God. And Owen's like, it doesn't matter. Just leave it alone. You know, you already showed it to everybody. Everybody saw it. It's fine. And so I walked into Owen's house, and I was in tears, and I had my little shoebox full of all these little things that were just in disarray. And Owen's sort of laughing, and he's like, "This is my mom, and this is," and I was like, "Hi," and she's like, "Oh, Owen, you know, you need to be nice to him. Like, he's really," and I was like, goodness, like, someone is here to, like, you know, maybe, like, keep Owen from making fun of me. And, you know, and I met Pat, and she, you know, coming to the Perkins' house was, like, such a different experience for me, because Pat was so involved with her work that the whole dining room table was filled with all of her papers and all of her stuff. And I really had never met anyone who was whose work became so much part of their life. And to this day, like I think about how her, like what Kathy was saying, like her life kind of, there were no boundaries between work and life, and also between family and work and friends, and you know, there's no question why all these people know her in so many different ways. But it's sort of her exuberance about life and about other people and about all these connections that she had. You know, those are some of the things I really remember about her. And I'll say this too, like I think for me, you know, knowing Owen as I have for such a long time, I think about the things that she gave Owen, and that exuberance for life and also friendships is really directly from Pat. Also her interest in ideas and books and drama. You know, she was just, it's like Owen has this flair for drama too, which I think comes directly from his mom. And I think, you know, her love of sports and being a big fan of lots of different things, not just sports, but music and theater. She attended so many different performances Owen was always in. You know, and I think lastly, like Owen's sense of loyalty is directly, like, from his mom. Like, she was just such a loyal friend and such a loyal, you know, kind person who really, every time you saw her, she was just really interested in what you were doing, and really, you know, took a lot of care and in kind of listening, but also in just kind of celebrating all the different traits that the people she surrounded herself with had. So, what a great person, and I definitely has given so much to Owen, you know, in her spirit and her traits. So thank you, Pat, for giving us Owen, and we're really lucky to have him because he really, I think, just embodies so much of his mom's wonderful traits. So.
Thank you. If you don't know Willie is the one who really embodies her traits.
I forgot to mention her love of pets, but
Yeah.
So I wanted to add something. I'm sorry, is that okay? I think a bunch of us did career day.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Mark, my husband, did for years. Every time we should be in different schools.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, you've got to come to career day.
It was a command performance.
Yeah.
She wasn't persuasive at all.
Exactly.
If you couldn't make it, there was always next year.
And she remembered.
And she would remember.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm Sally, Dave's wife, so I vicariously know this Gilman crowd for 35 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to echo what Dave said. I actually really didn't know your mom very well. We met her a few times, went to the party when she moved into Cross Keys.
Yeah.
I think that's the last time I saw her. But I just wanted to echo, you are a beautiful human being and a rare man. I think, you know, so much has been going on with with white men. And
Or in spite of what you
in spite of white men, and you have just remained a beautiful soul the entire time I've known you. So real, and as Dave said, we can always have interesting conversations and talk about poetry and music. And I'm chuckling to myself because I don't know if Owen shared the story of getting to Baltimore. It was an adventure. His car broke down in New York, and he needed to find a car, and only Owen, Pat's son, after all I'm hearing, had a friend who lived not far from where he was, whose girlfriend came and picked up Owen and then engaged another friend, right? Or something like
Vice
that.
versa, but yeah.
The other way around,
Yeah.
right. And suddenly he has a car to drive to Baltimore. He's like, I would not have been able to have pulled that off.
Yeah, I mean,
But to have so many friends who will just say, yeah, here, take my car for the
I
weekend.
just know somebody I'd never met before,
And
never
you never
knew
met them
about,
before.
and she just said, "You got to get to Baltimore. Wait, go here, take the car." And then just she was at work, and she'd come out to give us the keys to the house or something, and she's like, "Oh, you're going to Baltimore? You don't have a car? Well, wait, I'll come with you to take my car, and that's my lunch break. I can do it."
So now you have to go back to New York.
Well, my car's there, yeah. And then here, I forgot the pot, the bowl, the pottery. And I'm going back there that long, and just, if you thought I was so quick, some guy here, I said, "Are you staying here?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Could I borrow your bike?" He's like, "Sure." So he loaned me his bike to go back up to the parking lot and come back. And so it's through all these. We have always depended upon the kindness of strangers.
So now, I guess it's my turn now. My name is Sandy Wu, and this is my son Jackie, Benji, and my wife Mal. And we met, well, not then, but my wife and I met 15 years ago. And just like many other stories, to buy our first house here in Baltimore. And I think the one thing that really stuck out in my mind was patience, okay? And just really a relationship more than a transaction. And we went back and forth. We ended up moving to DC, but we kept in touch. Miraculously, there was something that connected us to Pat. And for 5 years, we went back and forth, just always talking to one another. Even though I was working in Baltimore, but we were living in DC, and next thing you know, we said, "Pat, we're going to have our first child." He's now 12, and we're coming back. We're going to move to Baltimore. And then we went and started to look around and so forth, and next thing you know, a few years after that, even continued to be patient with us. We ended up moving into Roland Park, and we were so happy, and it really has been such a transformative part of our life. And I think Mal and I really did not fall in love with Baltimore until Pat helped us find our home, and we had children here. And we really just felt like this is a place. I was born and raised in California Bay Area, and she's from Tokyo. And Baltimore was just such a foreign place to us. And we had been all over the world. We had lived in China, we lived in New York, we lived all over. And but it just felt so different. And she was really, we didn't have any family here, and she was kind of like an aunt to us, and she was just always there, and we always chit-chatted. And I think over time, it was, just more and more, we just kind of, randomly would give each other's calls just to say hello, how are you doing? And it would be probably sometime in a totally random hour, and it was always a pleasure to be able to say hello to her and talk to her and share updates about our life. And another thing was, when she first met our son, Benji, he had a love of animals. And specifically elephants. And Pat showed up one day and gave us your toys.
Oh.
These are your father's toys.
I was looking for it.
This is a little elephant, and we couldn't. She said he couldn't be separated from the monkey. And we brought them back either for you, or we could keep them as continuing to be a part of our home, which they've been on our mantle place for a very, very long time. But it's just always something that was a simple thing like this that she had just remembered, and she said she had found it cleaning up one day, and she wanted to bring it to us.
Yeah.
And so
That's beautiful.
thank you for having us, and it's been really a pleasure to get to know her and call her our friend. And I think the last time we did see her was at Nancy's house as well. And
An earlier visit when things were going better than the last visit.
Yeah.
and we had been going out to Colorado for spring break.
For 12 years at Gilman, and then for 2 years in graduate school. So Owen was always a part of my life, and by extension, Pat was often coming in and out of my life as well. My earliest memory of Pat was when Owen, you remember better than I would because you remember everything, but maybe it was your 7th or 8th birthday party at your house, and Pat pulled out all the stops. And this was a time before parents went overboard like we do today, but 1972-ish or so, and in her backyard, and she had set up a beautiful spread, not unlike what Owen has done here, and had all sorts of events and games for us, and had most of the class, if not all of the class there, and just exuded love for Owen and for everyone in the class. And the wonderful thing about Pat was when you saw her, she always made you feel like you were the most important thing in her life. And that was really her sort of special gift, whether it's giving you an elephant, or a monkey, and letting you know that you are important to her. Every time she saw you, she took an interest in you, and she wanted to know how you were doing. She wanted to know how your first cousins were doing, your second cousins, your parents, and so on. And she never talked about herself at all. It was always, how are you doing, and what are you doing, tell me what you're up to, and just making you feel important. And that's the way she gave to everyone. And that's the memory of Pat that I will retain forever.
So my name's Nancy Kadori, and I know Pat as a friend, but mostly as a neighbor. So we moved in across the street. So we live at 100 Park Lane, and she lives at 101 Park Lane. And I think what I was fascinated by Pat is her ability to gather people together, and because she was always, I was always really very busy with my job, and she was always trying to get me to come to an event. And the few times that I did go, it was usually her birthday party. And I think the one that I really remember is, and it always, she usually picked the restaurant, and there were all these women. And one of the times that we went, it was this Korean restaurant, like on 25th or 24th Street, and I just remember, and Pat would just she would walk in, and she would sort of take over, and I'd be like, this is great, and she would tell him exactly what she wanted. She goes, no, Nancy, you don't want that, you want this, and she was a hoot, and I just kind of remember thinking who is she? I mean, she's like a force of nature in some ways, and that's, I remember going to that Korean restaurant thinking how did she find this place? I mean, it's just, I think I had this notion, because of sort of thinking that she's this retired lady across the street, that she doesn't know about restaurants, you know what I mean? But she was always, she knew about restaurants, she knew where to go, and that's how I met Nancy. And I just remember just thinking that she really liked getting people together, and she liked events. And it was very nice of her to invite me. The other thing is I always remember Pat as being, what eventually I'd be called sort of the bionic woman, because she had like every joint replaced in her body. And what I could never get over is that she never seemed sad about it. You know, she was always like getting herself ready for her next, you know, shoulder replacement or knee replacement or hip replacement, and she'd have like some complications, but she didn't seem upset about it. I'm a doctor, so I'd be like, oh my God, this happened, you know, and she'd be like, no, we're going, you know, we're getting there, we're going, and I just would be like, how does she have this attitude, you know, of like, I would be depressed, you know, I would be very sad, and she's like, no, and I remember, I know where Gypsy's buried, so Gypsy's buried in the backyard underneath a magnolia tree. So that's kind of nice, you know, that, you know, I used to steal magnolia leaves off the tree. And the other thing was Willie. So what I particularly remember is when Willie was a pup, Willie would always get out of the house somehow. And she'd be yelling, Willie! You know, it'd be like, oh gosh, Willie's out of the house again, you know, but he seemed thrilled to get away from her. You know, thrilled because she would chase him, and she had a bad hip and a bad knee, and so like I would really, I really always loved it when she would be out yelling at Willie. You know,
it's a great game for him, I think.
No, I know. That's what I mean. He loved it.
He was so good for her, and partly to keep her exercising.
No, and he was a hoot. That's all I can say. But yeah, and I did go to the September 11th party. My son, like it was across the street, and I remember like feeling really guilty because my son, I don't know where you were, but so at 9/11/2001. So my son Evan was born in October 1998, so he would have been almost 3. And I remember I had put him to bed and like run across the street, and I kept going, oh my God, am I a bad mother? Because, you know, I went to the party, you know.
I must have been there.
You weren't. I don't know where you were, but anyway. But yeah, so she was a great neighbor, and I will say that the people she sold her house to, they were great neighbors, and now there's a new family that just moved in. So that's kind of the circle of you know, houses and lives. But so we were glad to know her.
One thing about Willie is when she did move to Cross Keys,
I don't know how this thing works. Doesn't matter.
you hold the button and then pull the trigger.
Thank you, dear. No.
Yeah.
Go, you do it.
In this interlude, I'll mention that our
So obviously I don't know how to use that thing.
That's okay.
I don't like it.
I use one of these on our grill all the time.
Yeah.
So Willie, I don't know, she liked to walk him. He was used to walking near her old house, but she had moved across Keys, and she selected the apartment so it had an opening right where Willie could go outside without going on stairs. So she would bring him back to her old house and walk him right there, which was, you know, I mean, a 5-minute drive, but still, I mean, she would go to that trouble. But she couldn't, I don't know if he was ailing a little bit, but she had this silver car. I guess it was kind of like a hatchback. But my job, she would come and say, can you help me? And my job was to lift Willie up and when she was done and put him in the car because she couldn't do that. That's the least I could do.
Yeah.
But that was, you know, she cared that much that he would prefer his old walking place.
Yeah.
That she would go out of her way, and you know, very considerate for an animal.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, we did work with her for probably about 6 months, and we probably put her through hell because we had a house on the Eastern Shore that we wanted to put it for sale right when the real estate market crash was, and we wanted to sell it for a lot more money than you could get. So we kind of handed her an impossible assignment of, we were holding out, you've got, and she was like, yeah, I can get it. And it was kind of out of her real estate bailiwick, I think,
Well, it was on the eastern shore of Maryland, so.
And we had to drive her over, or she would meet us over there. You have to go across the bridge, and it wasn't right across the bridge. It's another hour. Anyway.
It's in Dorchester County.
So, and we ended up getting an auctioneer and auctioning it off eventually. But anyway, I know it was. She was a real trooper with it, and she kept coming up with ideas and trying to sell it.
This house needs an elevator. We're like that. We're not getting an elevator.
we were desperate.
We
were desperate to sell it. And, I don't think it was going to happen. But she, we remained friends through that whole thing, and she put up with us, and we put up with her. So that's my biggest memory of her, actually.
I'll just quickly interject that when we pulled into town last night from this epic journey and from New York in the stranger's car, my friends were waiting for me, Dave and Sally, for dinner. I said, we got to first stop at Stony Run Park. So we came first, past their house by half an hour, came into Stony Run Park so that Willie would know where he was. And he was so happy to be back there. Oh God, yeah, he went swimming and went swimming. He led the way and went to his old creek and his old watering hole. So I'm sorry.
I mean, the thing I loved about Pat was good humor. Like you said, how when she got sick, it didn't seem to bother her. Well, and you were worried about your mom when she had the breast cancer.
Yeah.
But when I went in to see her after she had gotten awake from her surgery, she said, I lost 30 pounds. And that was Pat.
That's right. She loved to lose. She was always working on weight loss. Yeah.
And she wasn't one for following rules particularly, and which was always funny, but she always managed to get away with it. And once Rachel was little, there was some event, I don't know, a shower, but she had Rachel, who, my daughter at the time, Rachel was a baby in the car seat, and Pat had her, and she went to Eddie's and picked up a cake, and then when I went to get Rachel, Rachel said, Mom, I was safe. Pat said I was safe in the car, nobody could get me, and Pat went in to get the cake. And Pat goes, well, I didn't know she could talk. She did what she could get away with, but she was just wonderful, she was like my best friend. So, and I'm sorry she's not here. And she loved tennis, and she loved Andre Agassi. And I think of her every day because the U.S. Open is on now. But Agassi is not playing. But that's about it.
And you took very good care of her. I mean, she was your good friend. For a lot of years. But then she's almost a little bit like your mother.
In a way,
and you took care of her like that. I mean, a lot. So I don't know.
Pat's a hoot.
You really did.
Well, I'm another of the legion of people who Pat found a house for. She sold my first house, found us our second house, although, I don't know, I was not part of the crew. I met everybody a different way. Kathy and I were friends, and Kathy is the one who got me involved with all the birthday crew, and it was like, oh wait, I know Pat Perkins, she's my real estate agent. So I'm not speaking personally.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I thought Pat did.
It was me.
It was your birthday. It was 20 years ago because I was just pregnant, and Nathan is 20 now.
I saw Nathan last week.
Ditto to what everybody said. I said when I heard that Pat had died that it really seemed like the world was a dimmer place, right? Like whatever you could say, sometimes, I'm sorry, we can all be annoying. Sometimes I would get a little annoyed. We'd go to a restaurant and Pat would have to order this and then that. No, she would in fact tell me, she would scoff at what I was offering and say, no, you're not going to be happy with that. But, no, that's what I wanted. And then I remember once having a party, a Mother's Day party, and she brought sangria, just in case I didn't have enough alcohol. She brought a bottle of sangria. So So anyway, I'm sorry I haven't seen Pat in years. Every time she came to Baltimore, something was going on. I don't know, but definitely still true. The world's a little bit dimmer without her.
Hi, I'm Deborah, to everybody who hasn't met me. I met Pat in 1983 when she was my 7th grade drama teacher.
No kidding. Oh, wow.
And she taught me how to pantomime. I was horribly bad at it. But I did learn a lot from her back then. And she encouraged me to join drama club, which is where I met this person. And then, you know, after Kevin and I reconnected decades later, Pat came back into my life, and she was the only non-blood relative at our wedding 3 months later. And what I really appreciated the most about Pat is just really the relationship she had with Kevin, and how she was like a second mom to him, and that was something that he really needed.
Thank you. Stealing my thunder. Well, my name's Kevin Keith. I've met a lot of you over the years, especially Nancy. I've seen the kids, you know, be born, the grandchildren. But I met Pat in 1982, so a year before you.
So competitive.
And she was my junior high theater teacher. She got me started in theater, had me doing shows, and it really brought me out of my shell, because I was a really shy person. I still think I'm a shy person, but because of what she's taught me, I just have the gift of the gab, and I can pretty much talk to a rock, as my wife tells me, and hold a conversation. But she really brought something out of me that made me better. And I think it was 2 years into our friendship, some friends and I took a theater summer class with her. During that time, she brought up the fact that she needed to have the outside of her house painted. So, the three of us, yes, EJ and
Larry?
Larry, yes. So there were 4 of us, and let me tell you, I hated going up that ladder to the 2nd floor, so we had Larry do all of that. But from the money that I made that summer, I bought my first computer, Commodore VIC-20. Anyone knows that old monster? And that's what got me really interested in computing, software, programming. And today I work as a QA analyst for software. So I work in software development, which, you know, has brought me a pretty good career. You know, all from that summer of painting a house.
That's great. That's a good story.
Pat actually wanted me to go into theater, which I did chase for a few years, became a member of SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. And I found that software development was more steady. So I had to make a full-time change to that and dedicate myself to it. Pat wasn't too happy about it, but she understood. You know, have a wife. She really meant a lot to me. As my wife mentioned, she was like a second mom to me. First visiting her house in Roland Park, I'd see a picture of Owen and Kathy on the walls along the stairwell. And, you know, she was really a person that judged you by the content of your character. And that meant a lot to me, you know, growing up as me in Baltimore. You know, I've been through a lot, and she was the kindest person I've ever met. I remember one summer I was at her house, and was it Snowball, White Cat?
Boo.
Boo, that's it. Boo, we need to find Boo to give her some flea powder. And, you know, Boo was an indoor-outdoor cat, much like the dogs were indoor-outdoor. So she looked around the house for Boo. I looked outside the house for Boo. And I was circling around the house, you know, just looking along the hedges to see where she might have been hiding. And, you know, when you have that feeling you're being watched, you know. So I turn around, and there, you know the story.
I know, but I just know Boo.
there's two people, this couple in the car just stopped and they're staring at me, and I'm like, what's going on? Then they take off. So I think nothing of it. Never found Boo. Figured she'd show up later. So I'm playing with Misty and Beaver in the backyard, and which is surrounded by, or was surrounded by tall hedges and a small wooden gate. And a cop car pulls up. And immediately Beaver and Misty, get defensive, and I'm like, they're not going to let you guys in back here. You need to go around the front. Now, that should have told them right there I wasn't a troublemaker, but, by the time I get them calmed down and go through the house, I hear Pat saying, he's my friend. And because apparently they got a report that someone was lurking in the bushes.
Looking for a cat.
In broad daylight, I could be the worst robber ever, burglar, in Roland Park, lurking in the bushes in broad daylight. But, now I can look at that, back at that and laugh. At the time, I was kind of hurt. But, now I'm like, it's just so funny that, people jump to the wrong conclusions. And to Pat, it's like she never really even saw that, And, I mean, she had me house sit for her while she was out of town. And the irony of that was the security company that watched her house would watch me while I was there. I would be in the living room and they were in the car right outside. I was like, well, I feel safe. But the things I learned from her over the years, bringing happiness to others and enjoying life. And I think the reason she had so many friends is because not one person could keep up with her. It was a relay for all of us. They would tag one out and let one tag in. I don't know where she got her energy from, but she was definitely a gift to us. And I'll always be thankful for that.
Did anybody not get to talk that wants to? I think everybody did. Can I impose on you to hold that for me?
Sure.
I can't begin to say much of anything about Mom. It would capture everything. But one thing that struck me recently, this trip has been so good, and it's been so good to do it with Willie. And Willie really does embody Mom. The dogs reflect the personality of the people who raise them so much. And everybody who meets Willie thinks he's the greatest dog in the world, and that's, credit to Mom. But we did this trip and saw so many relatives, and kind of paid for it too by doing some baseball along the way, covering some games and writing some stories from different parts of the country. And I won't get into all that, but there was a lot of fateful things. And one of the things was that I planned the trip long ago, in January probably, and the day that I'd be coming down from Maine to Maryland ended up being the day that Major League Baseball rescheduled the Hall of Fame induction from late July to last Wednesday, a few days ago. And come here, Willie, come here. Willie? I can't listen. So I thought, well, it's kind of on the way from Maine to Maryland to go to Cooperstown. So I went to Cooperstown to cover the Hall of Fame, and I was walking in the halls the day before and seeing, Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson and everybody, and there, Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. And when I actually got to the part I remembered, because the museum changes all the time, but when I got to where the plaques are, I remembered, 50 some years earlier being there with the family. And I was born in Cortland nearby, and we would go back into that area to visit. And I don't know that I had any idea that the Hall of Fame was near where we were going and where we had lived. But they made sure to plan a trip to the Hall of Fame, and that trip was coming back to me, and just trying to think, who in my family cared about going to the Hall of Fame except for me? I was a big baseball nut. And I don't remember begging to go or saying we have to go there on this trip, but they planned that trip for me, and everybody endured, that obsession of mine. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Mom used to take me to the ball game on my birthday. When I was a kid, we'd have baseball parties at the ballpark on my birthday. And when I was older, she'd take me, just the two of us would go. And my birthday was often the day before Mother's Day, right around there. It was this year again. And I would take her to the ball game on Mother's Day. And we always loved that. And she, both my parents were not baseball people, I don't think. But they went to a lot of baseball games. And, you could imagine Mom, at my Little League games where I'm not getting enough playing time. And picture Shirley MacLaine in terms of endearment in the hospital. Like, how long does she have to wait for her? That hysterical scene that she has. That was Mom at every Little League game with my coaches, about, why isn't he playing? The greatest advocate you could ever have on your side. I think it kind of I don't know if it ever became a love for her. I think it did, because she wanted to celebrate her birthday at the game. And, just a couple of years ago, we went to the ball game for her birthday, had a bunch of friends come with us. They had, everybody had a blast. She was just, queen of the day and loved it. Took a great interest in this all through my life. And, that's just one little bit of piece that hardly captures everything, but in a way, I don't know, this whole trip, taking that journey and getting back here to Baltimore on her birthday, and being able to celebrate with you and with Willie. Baseball is about coming home, and I feel like, with you people and with Willie and the memory of Mom, that Mom is home and we're all home, and it's great to be able to have this party with you, this celebration of her birthday. And I want to maybe try to close with a song that I've never played before. But it reminds me, it came out, if you know John Prine, it's a John Prine song, and
He died of COVID.
he died of COVID, and he finished this shortly before he died, and they played it at the Grammys last year. And again, I've never played it, so bear with me. But you can imagine the first few lines in Willie's voice, because I really think this captures what Willie would say. But the rest of it, I think, is just a good song for the occasion, called "I Remember Everything." Somebody said that earlier, and so here's that song. And this part is Willie's voice. I've been down this road before. I remember every tree, every single blade of grass holds a special place for me. And I remember every town and every hotel room, and every song I ever sang on a guitar out of tune. That's probably my voice. I remember everything, things I can't forget. The way you turned and smiled on me on the
night when we first met, and I remember every night your ocean eyes of blue, and I miss you in the morning light, like roses miss the dew. Oh, I've been down this road before, alone as I can be, careful not to let my past go sneaking up on me. Got no future in my happiness, though regrets are very few. Sometimes a little tenderness was the best that I could do. I remember everything, things I can't forget. Swimming pools of butterflies that slip right through the net. And I remember every night your ocean eyes of blue. Now I miss you in the morning light, like roses miss the dew. Now I miss you in the morning light, like roses miss the dew.
Yay!
We got a whole lot of food from Eddie's here. I tried to charge it. The account seems to be closed. I tried. So please have some. We have birthday cake too. So why don't we start off?